I knew something was wrong the moment I stepped onto their porch. The lights inside were warm, glowing and festive, spilling out through the windows like the promise of a family evening. But the door remained closed, even after I knocked twice. It was my son who finally opened it, halfway, as if he were suddenly a stranger standing between me and a world I once belonged to without question. "Mom, hey," he said, voice tight, body stiff. Before I could respond, she appeared behind him. My daughter-in-law, dressed immaculately, lips curled into that polite, poisonous smile she only reserved for me. Her eyes swept over me as if I were an unexpected delivery blocking her hallway. "You weren't supposed to come early," she said. "We're still preparing." It was the way she emphasized we're, a boundary drawn in a single word. "I'm not early," I said softly. "You told me 7. Her smile widened, but her eyes didn't. "Yes, but I didn't think you'd actually arrive on time." And that was it, the tension I had felt building for months finally tightening into something sharp. Ever since they moved into this new home, ever since she became the gatekeeper of everything that belonged to my son, she had begun treating me like an obligation instead of family. I tried to step forward. "Should I come in?" I brought. Her arm shot out, nails glistening under the light as she gripped the door frame. "No. Stay outside for a moment. This dinner is family only." The words slapped harder than her hand ever could. My son looked down at his shoes. He didn't defend me. He didn't say a word. He didn't even try to meet my eyes. I felt something inside my chest twist, but I swallowed it. "Family only," I repeated quietly. "And what am I?" She shrugged. "You're extended. And extended family usually joins after the main family dinner. It's how we're doing it now. New house, new rules." There was no embarrassment in her voice. No shame. Just pure satisfaction, as if she had finally declared her ownership of the evening. And my son. My hands trembled slightly around the container I had brought, biryani, the recipe my son loved from childhood, the one he used to beg me to make every birthday, every exam result, every Friday night. I held it carefully, knowing that if I loosened even a little, the trembling might make me drop it. "Give me that," she said, reaching for the dish. "I'll put it aside for later. We don't need it for the main dinner." I didn't hand it over. Something told me not to. "Are you sure you want to do this?" I asked her quietly. She raised an eyebrow. "Quite sure. Now if you don't mind, please wait outside. 20 minutes. Maybe 30. When we're done with our family dinner, we'll call you in." She wasn't embarrassed to say it. Not even a little. In fact, she sounded proud, like a queen announcing a decree. My son still stayed silent. I stepped back. Cold air brushed against my arms as the door clicked shut in my face, softly, but with finality. It didn't slam. She didn't make a scene. No. Her cruelty was always quiet, controlled, sugar-coated. And somehow that made it worse. I stood there on the porch, the biryani warm in my hands, the faint sound of clinking cutlery and laughter leaking through the windows. The street was calm. A dog barked distantly. A car passed. Life moved, but inside me everything froze. 20 minutes, she had said. I looked at the sky instead of the door. If I looked at the house, I knew my heart would crack. Memories rushed. Birthdays I planned alone because my husband worked abroad, late-night fevers I treated with trembling hands, school events I attended with pride and a cheap suit because I couldn't afford better. I had never once let my son feel alone. Not once. And yet here I was. Alone. Outside. Waiting like an uninvited guest at the door of the very child I raised with my entire soul. But pain, when it reaches a certain depth, does something strange. It clears the clouded parts of the mind. A quiet realization bloomed in me. They didn't think I would stand up for myself. They didn't think I had the strength. They believed I would sit outside obediently, silently, gratefully, like the old-fashioned mother she had once whispered to her friend over the phone, unaware I had heard. But she had overplayed her hand tonight. Because if she wanted to humiliate me privately, she should have remembered. I did not come here alone. The rest of the family was already on their way. And they would arrive in exactly 20 minutes. She had no idea what was about to happen. And when the door finally opened again, the entire room would not be laughing. Not anymore. If your heart carries its own wounds, if the people you trusted have broken you, and you still want to hear that truth again, then know this. You are exactly in the right place. Just tell us your beautiful name, let us know which wonderful country you're watching from, and make sure to subscribe to this channel, so that these painful real-life stories, stories that touch the deepest corners of the heart, reach you on time. The wind picked up slightly as I stood on that porch, the aroma of warm biryani drifting upward, mingling with the cold evening air. It felt strange, how a fragrance could carry both comfort and heartbreak at the same time. I adjusted my shawl and waited, but not like someone who had been pushed aside. I waited with a quiet, rising awareness that something inevitable, something long overdue, was finally coming. Inside the house, I could hear them settling in around the dining table. The faint scrape of chairs. The clinking of glasses. The beginning of controlled, polite laughter that always came from my daughter-in-law whenever she entertained her side of the family. I recognized the voices. Her parents, her brother, her aunt. They were the ones she always referred to as proper guests. They were the ones who mattered. To her. Not to me. My phone buzzed softly. A message. I unlocked it to see a text from my brother. We're 5 minutes away. Outside or inside. I felt a small, steady breath leave my chest. Not a sigh. Not exhaustion. Just steadiness returning. Outside, I typed back. Wait for my signal. He replied with a simple thumbs up. I sat on the porch bench, the cold would seeping through my clothes, grounding me. This house had always made me uncomfortable. It was too polished, too curated, too much like a showroom rather than a place where people lived freely. Ever since my son married her, he had become a guest in his own life. A quiet guest who obeyed rules he never agreed with but followed because he loved her deeply. And perhaps because he feared conflict more than he feared losing pieces of himself. As I waited, I thought of the last conversation my son and I had before tonight. He had said, "Mom, please don't say anything to upset her. She wants everything perfect." And I had smiled, as mothers do when they know their children are asking for the impossible. I had given in. Again and again. I had folded every corner of myself smaller so she could expand freely. I had swallowed comments, ignored insults hidden behind sugary politeness, tolerated boundaries that sliced slowly into me. But tonight she had stepped beyond boundaries. She had stepped into a place where respect is not optional, not negotiable, not a decorative courtesy but the foundation that keeps relationships alive. The porch light flickered. A shadow moved behind the curtain. I heard her voice, sharp and impatient. Why isn't she leaving? I told her to wait outside but not right outside. What if the neighbors see? My jaw tightened. She's fine, my son murmured, his tone low, almost pleading. Please don't start. I'm not starting anything. I'm just saying she always makes things difficult. She could have waited in her car. Or gone home and come later. But no, she wants to sit on the porch like a... Her voice trailed off as someone inside shushed her. Probably her mother. That woman had made her dislike for me clear from the very beginning. Another car slowed outside and parked a little distance down the road. Headlights dimmed. A door shut. Then another. My heart warmed instantly. My family was here. Not for drama. Not for confrontation. But because they respected me enough to show up when they sensed something was wrong. And something was very wrong. I stood slowly, adjusting my shawl again. The biryani dish weighed heavy in my hands, but it no longer felt like a burden. It felt like a symbol of every meal I had cooked for my son, every moment I fed love into him, every memory she could never erase no matter how hard she tried. Inside, Her laughter rose again. Forced. Loud. The kind she used to impress others. She thrived on approval like it was oxygen. She needed it, and she wanted her guests to see that she controlled everything, including who was welcome in her home tonight. She believed I would sit here quietly, obediently, until she allowed me to enter like a child waiting for permission. She forgot something important. She married my son. She did not marry my silence. My phone buzzed again. My niece this time. "Caller, we're here. Should we come up?" "Wait," I replied. "Let me open the door first." The porch light flickered again, this time with a soft buzz. Something inside the house thudded, a drawer closing, footsteps approaching. The door opened just a crack. It was her. Of course it was her. She pushed the door open wider, but not fully, only enough for half her face to appear, like she still wanted control over how much I could see inside. She smiled again. That same calculated smile. "All right," she said sweetly. "We're almost done. Another 10 minutes. Do you mind waiting a bit more? You'll come in after we finish our family dinner." My eyes didn't blink. My face didn't move. My voice was calm as still water. "You said 20 minutes. Yes. But it's taking a bit longer. You understand, right?" She tilted her head, condescendingly. "Please don't make this uncomfortable." I stepped forward. Not into the house. Just forward. "I won't make it uncomfortable," I replied softly. "But they might." Her smile twitched. "They." I nodded. She opened the door wider without thinking, and that was all I needed. Behind me, footsteps began approaching from the road. Slow, steady, confident. Multiple pairs. My family. My brother, my sister-in-law, my nieces, my nephews, walking toward the house, carrying gifts, desserts, trays of food as if this were the gathering they were invited to. Her eyes widened. What is this? Why are they?" Before she finished, her mother appeared behind her, eyes narrowing when she saw my relatives approaching. I spoke before she could. "You said family only," I reminded her gently. "So I brought mine." Her mother's jaw stiffened. Her father straightened. The room behind them went quiet. Even the laughter died. My son finally appeared in the doorway, eyes darting between me and the people approaching. A hush fell. My brother reached the porch. He placed a hand on my shoulder. Not protectively. Respectfully. And at that moment, for the first time all evening, I saw something shift in my daughter-in-law's expression. Not anger. Not annoyance. Fear. Because she realized she hadn't excluded me. She had isolated herself. And in 20 minutes, the entire room was about to witness a truth she had spent years trying to hide. The moment my relatives reached the porch, the air shifted. Not with chaos, not with confrontation, but with a calm, undeniable presence. The kind of presence that comes when people show up not out of obligation, but out of loyalty. My family didn't raise their voices, didn't demand explanations, didn't display aggression. They simply arrived, standing beside me with the quiet dignity that my daughter-in-law didn't expect and couldn't control. Her mother stepped forward first, trying to maintain the evening's artificial elegance. "What's going on here?" she asked, her tone sharp but wrapped in polite fabric. She always spoke like she was addressing servants who had failed to understand instructions. My brother didn't look at her. He looked at me. "Kola sab thik," he asked softly. "Are you okay?" I nodded once, and that small gesture carried more meaning than any explanation. He understood instantly that I had been made to wait outside, that I was told I wasn't family, that I had been pushed away from a table I had every right to sit at. He didn't need the details. My silence told the whole story. My daughter-in-law's eyes flickered nervously toward her own family, searching for someone to step in, support her, justify her actions. But none of them spoke. Silence exposed truth more brutally than accusations ever could. My son looked visibly uncomfortable, caught between the world he chose and the world that raised him. He stepped out onto the porch, but he kept glancing nervously at his wife, like he needed permission to breathe. "Mom," he began, "I didn't know your side was coming." "You didn't know," I replied quietly, "because you didn't ask." The words weren't angry. They were a simple statement of fact. A mirror held up gently but honestly. He swallowed hard. "We just planned a small dinner." His wife cut in quickly, eager to take control. "A private dinner. With my family. We wanted to keep it intimate. No offense, but this," she gestured toward my relatives with a polite yet poisonous smile, "wasn't part of the plan." Her attempt at reclaiming control alerted her mother, who stepped beside her daughter like a general rejoining battle lines. "This is highly irregular," she said. "You can't just bring uninvited guests to someone else's home." My niece spoke for the first time, her voice steady. "But she's not someone else, is she? This is her son's home too." The comment hit precisely where it was meant to. My daughter-in-law's smile faltered. "Please don't make drama out of nothing. She could have waited. It's just one dinner." My brother stepped forward, calm but firm. "Your words say, just one dinner. Your actions say something else. You told her to wait outside like she doesn't belong. That's not just dinner. That's disrespect." My son closed his eyes briefly, guilt spiraling across his face. He opened his mouth as if to defend her but found no words. Even he couldn't justify what she'd done. Her father finally spoke, trying to diffuse the tension. "Maybe we can all go inside and talk this over. No need to make a scene." But I shook my head gently. "No scene is being made. We're only standing here." He sighed. "Well then let's." "You told her to wait outside." My nephew's voice cut in, calm but unmistakably firm. "And now you want to ask us to come inside? Why? Because now you feel embarrassed." Embarrassment. Yes. The emotion finally spreading across their carefully curated faces. My daughter-in-law stepped forward, suddenly defensive. "I didn't embarrass her. I just wanted things organized. She always does things her own way. She doesn't understand boundaries. And I held up my hand, stopping her mid-sentence. "You could have told me with respect," I said. "You could have spoken with kindness. But you didn't." And respect, once broken, often reveals truths people try to hide. She stiffened, eyes burning with a combination of frustration and humiliation. "I am not the villain here," she whispered fiercely. "No one said you were," I replied softly. "But your actions are speaking louder than your words." Her mother shot me a disapproving glare. "You're twisting the situation. No one meant any harm." My sister-in-law stepped forward then, her voice soft but steady. "Maybe not intentionally. But harm doesn't need intention. It only needs a moment of carelessness." Inside the house, guests were peeking toward the hallway, sensing the tension. Their faces appeared between door frames, curious, confused, already forming judgments. My daughter-in-law realized she was losing control of the evening she worked so hard to orchestrate. She straightened her shoulders. "Fine," she said, voice stretched thin. "If you all want to come in, come in. I'm not dealing with this outside." But I didn't move. She frowned. "Aren't you coming?" I shook my head. "Not as an afterthought. Not because you're worried about appearances. Respect is not a performance. It's a choice." Her mouth fell open slightly, stunned that I wasn't falling into the role she assigned me. Quiet, obedient, willing to take whatever treatment she decided. My son finally stepped forward. His voice cracked when he spoke. "Mom, please. Come inside. We'll all sit together." I looked at him. Really looked. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. He looked like a boy again, confused, overwhelmed, trying to keep peace in a world he didn't know how to navigate. "Do you want me inside?" I asked him quietly, Or do you want to avoid guilt? His lips parted, but no sound came. Because I will not enter anyone's home as an outsider, I said gently. Not even yours. He blinked rapidly, and for the first time that night, I saw something break inside him. Something tender, something honest. My daughter-in-law snapped. This is ridiculous. You're turning this into a circus. I simply asked you to wait. No, I replied calmly. You asked me to stand outside like I was beneath you. Those are not the same things. The silence that followed was different now. Heavy. Real. No one could escape it. My relatives remained behind me like a quiet wall of support. Her guests inside shifted uncomfortably, seeing a version of her they hadn't seen before. Entitled, dismissive, controlling. The mask had slipped. My daughter-in-law stepped back into the house, then turned around sharply. If you're not coming inside, then do whatever you want. I have a dinner to run. She stormed off toward the dining room, the elegance of the evening shattering with each angry step. My son stayed frozen in the doorway, torn, hurting, unsure. And I knew then. This night was no longer about dinner. It was about truth. And the truth had finally entered the room even if I hadn't. He whispered, almost inaudibly. Mom, what do I do? I touched his shoulder softly. When respect is missing, I told him, the answer is already clear. He closed his eyes. And inside the house, the entire room was about to witness a moment that would change everything. My son stood there, rooted in the doorway, his breath unsteady, his shoulders tight, his eyes filled with the kind of confusion children feel when they realize the world is not as simple as they once believed. But he wasn't a child anymore. He was a grown man caught between two forces, one that built him and one that claimed him. From inside the house, the clatter of dishes resumed, but it was no longer the cheerful sound it had been minutes earlier. Now it was forced, awkward, broken. Conversations had dimmed to whispers. Eyes glanced toward the hallway, watching, waiting, pretending to ignore the tension while trying desperately to calculate which side to stand on. My daughter-in-law's voice rose first. Not loud, but clipped, rigid, trembling with frustration. We are starting dinner, she announced, her tone sharp enough to cut through the uneasy silence. Everyone sit. Please. But the word please was brittle, an obligation rather than courtesy. Her mother hovered behind her, whispering fiercely. Control the situation. Don't let them make you look weak. Her father avoided eye contact with anyone, quietly shifting plates, pretending that nothing was unraveling. My relatives remained outside with me. They did not push forward or step inside, but they didn't leave either. They simply stood there as witnesses, not to embarrass, not to escalate, but to ensure I wasn't alone in a moment designed to isolate me. My son looked at me again, his expression raw. Mom, I didn't want this. I swear I didn't. She likes things her way. She likes things her way, I repeated softly. And what about you? What about your way? Your choices? Your voice? He swallowed. I try to keep the peace. And did you? I asked gently. He opened his mouth and closed it. He knew the answer. Keeping peace is impossible when only one person is expected to bend. Inside the dining room, chairs slid back. Someone whispered something about the food getting cold. A forced laugh chimed in, thin and strained. They wanted normalcy. They wanted pretense. But truth has a strange power. It makes pretense impossible, even when unspoken. My daughter-in-law called out again, louder this time. Come on, everyone, let's eat. Her voice wavered. It wavered because she knew the center of the storm wasn't inside the house. It was at the doorway, where her husband stood torn between the woman he loved and the mother he was made to forget. I placed the biryani dish on the porch bench. The warmth had faded, but the meaning hadn't. I looked at my son and spoke quietly, with the same steadiness that had carried me through years of raising him alone when life was heavier than my shoulders could bear. You asked me what to do, I said. But the real question is, what kind of man do you want to be? One who eats in comfort while his mother stands outside? Or one who stands for what is right, even when it's hard? His throat tightened visibly. His eyes glistened, but he blinked quickly, as if refusing to let tears fall in front of both families. I didn't mean for this to happen, he whispered. I know, I replied. But it did. And what you choose next will tell you who you truly are. A long pause. A long breath. A long moment where the weight of the world balanced on a single decision. Then, a chair scraped loudly inside. Then another. Guests shifted uncomfortably, glancing around. My daughter-in-law appeared in the hallway again, her face flushed with anger. Are you coming or not? She demanded at my son, ignoring me entirely. Everyone is waiting. Stop dragging this out. Her tone was sharp, impatient, embarrassed. She was no longer pretending. The mask had fallen. Something in my son's expression changed the moment she spoke like that. Something small but powerful, like a lock finally turning after years of rust. He stepped back from the doorway, but not toward her. He stepped toward me. He took a slow breath, shoulders relaxing as if he had finally stopped fighting himself. Then he reached for the biryani dish, not aggressively, not impulsively, but with quiet intention. I'm not eating in there, he said. His wife froze. What? I'm not sitting at a table where my mother isn't welcome, he repeated, his voice steady and clear. If she's outside, I'm outside. If she's not part of the dinner, then neither am I. The hallway went silent. Utterly silent. Her relatives stared, wide-eyed, unsure whether to intervene or stay silent. No one moved. My daughter-in-law's voice cracked on the edge of disbelief. You're choosing her over me? No, he said softly. I'm choosing what's right. Her face twisted, rage mixing with humiliation. You are ruining everything. He shook his head. It was ruined the moment you told her she wasn't family. Her mother stepped in sharply. Young man, this isn't the way. He didn't raise his voice. But he didn't lower his eyes either. Actually, it is. He lifted the biryani dish fully in his hands, nodded at me, and walked down the steps of the porch. My family stepped aside respectfully as he joined us. My daughter-in-law stood there, trembling, speechless, furious. You're going to regret this, she snapped. He paused. Respecting my mother? No, I won't. He walked past her, past the doorway, past the expectations, past the judgmental looks awaiting him inside the dining room. He walked toward his car, toward me, toward the family that had stood with me even when I was told I didn't belong. I picked up my shawl more firmly around my shoulders as he reached me. Let's go home, Mom, he said. We'll eat together. My relatives smiled softly. Some touched my arm. Some held back tears. Not one looked triumphant. This wasn't victory. It was healing, overdue and hard-earned. My daughter-in-law followed us to the porch, her voice shaking. If you leave right now, don't expect me to follow. He turned around slowly. If respect is something you give only when guests are watching, then maybe you shouldn't. Her mouth fell open, but no words came. Her guests stared at her, uncomfortable, seeing a version of her she never wanted them to see. The woman who spoke of family values had tried to keep a mother out in the cold. Her home was full of people, yet she stood alone. Meanwhile, I walked with my son, my family around me. Not because of drama, not because of pride, because dignity matters, because love is not a performance, because respect is the foundation of every relationship, and the moment it cracks, truth bursts through. As we reached the car, my son whispered, I'm sorry, Mom. I placed my hand on his cheek gently. Tonight, I whispered, you remembered who you are. He closed his eyes, exhaling a long, trembling breath. We drove away, not from a house, but from years of quiet hurt that had finally been seen, finally been spoken, finally been acknowledged. And behind us, in the home that wasn't truly a home, the entire room sat in silence. A silence she could no longer control. A silence she had created. A silence that would echo long after we were gone.